DOGE and Republican lawmakers wasting no time trying to trim the fat. Just wait until you hear how much remote work for the government is costing you, the taxpayer. Megan Hayes and David Avella will react next. Is vowing to take an axe to bloated federal spending as the DOGE caucus leader releases a stunning new report. Fox Business correspondent Hillary Vaughn is live on Capitol Hill. She's got that for us. Hi, Hillary.
Hi, Sandra. Well, while Republicans are rallying behind Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy's goal to cut $2 trillion in spending from the federal government, Democrats not so convinced. Some Democrats say that they think this Department of Government efficiency isn't real, won't work, and is illegal.
The impoundment of funds that have been appropriated by the Congress is unconstitutional and illegal. There is no such Department of Government efficiency. It's made up.
These ideas that Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk have clearly are not founded in any bit of reality.
But Musk and Ramaswamy don't need Democrats' blessing to downsize. There are things they can do on their own, like corralling federal workers back to the office. They think if employees have to actually go to the office, they'll leave on their own, and that will significantly reduce the headcount.
You, the individual federal worker, you're not the bad guy. But the existence of the bureaucracy that involves too many of those federal workers, that is what we're up against.
A new report from Senator Joni Ernst shows just how many federal workers are phoning it in from home. According to the report, just 6% of federal employees work in person full time. The average occupancy of federal buildings just 12% full. So some federal workers, though, are really taking advantage of remote work. According to the Ernst report, this VA employee got busted after taking work calls from a bubble bath. A spokesperson with the VA tells us, quote, the overwhelming majority of VA's employees work in person every day. We investigate any instances of wrongdoing and take appropriate action. But it's costing the federal government, Sandra, a lot of money to rent and maintain these buildings that very few people are going to, about $8 billion every year, when some of their workers would prefer to just sit at home in the bubble bath. Sandra?
I can't imagine why that's grabbing all the headlines from that report, Hillary. Great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
John.
All right, more now on Senator Ernst's eye-popping report titled Out of Office, Bureaucrats on the Beach and in Bubble Baths, but not in office buildings. GOPAC Chair David Avella is here, along with the former Director of Message Planning under President Biden, Megan Hayes, both in the studio here. So here's some more from the Joni Ernst report. Today, 90% of federal employees telework. Before COVID-19, it was only 3% of federal employees, which explains why traffic in Washington, D.C. is merely terrible and not horribly awful. And here's the cost to taxpayers. The average occupancy of agency headquarters, just 12%. The cost to maintain and lease buildings, $8 billion a year. Energy costs to keep the buildings running, $7.7 billion. And yet, Megan, Democrats are saying, well, we don't think this DOGE is a real department, and what authority does it have to try to corral this money?
So I think these are two separate issues. I'm not sure what DOGE's authority is to have and making the government more efficient. However, there is a problem with work from home and remote work. But I do think this is not just a problem that's facing the federal government. Corporations are also facing this problem. I think a lot of corporations in big cities are facing this. It's harmful to the economic development of downtowns in these places because of business development. People aren't going for lunch. People aren't in these office buildings that they own. So I do think there is a problem. They should probably look at what the efficiency is. But I also think if you're talking about reducing the civil workforce, these are not at-will employees, so there are some legal issues that they are going to run into. They just are not going to have like a blanket. They are not able to just fire people like they are in a business.
But I guess the goal is, if you tell people that they've got to go back to work, there was a number of people, and I think they've pegged that at about 100,000 people, who say, you know what, I don't need this anymore, and throw in the towel.
It's a great opportunity for bipartisanship here. We already have the mayor of D.C. who has called on the Biden administration to get federal workers back into the offices. It's an opportunity for Senator Fetterman and Senator Warner and those Democrats sitting in states that Trump won to be able to say, look, I want to work with the president to make sure government is focused on what it needs to do. To Vivek Ramaswamy's comment, it's not the individual government worker in many cases. It's they're working in a system that has become inefficient. And that's why you see a Supreme Court that says these agencies just can't make up their own regulations. Congress has to do their job. And this is an opportunity to get government back to what it's supposed to be doing, which is a Congress making rules and laws and the president enforcing them.
And in terms of the environment that these federal workers are in, there's the old saying that a fish dies at the head. Here's what Joni Ernst's report said about that. President Biden is setting the example. He was out of office 532 days over the last 3.5 years. About 40% of the time he was expected to be in the Oval Office. And since no one's home at the White House, the bureaucrats are setting their own schedules. Presidents always get dinged for going on vacation or going away for the weekend, but he was out of town a lot.
So he goes to Wilmington every weekend. I mean, that's pretty well documented when he's in Wilmington. It's documented wherever he is. But I don't think, being the president, you don't depart your duties when you leave the White House. They have an incredible amount of support around them that he's still able to do his job. So it's a little bit different. But also, these government workers are not the same as the president of the United States. The duties are not the same, and they do not have the same support structure around them. So I think also that's kind of an unfair argument. But I understand the point they're trying to make.
You know, in terms of Democrats and their opposition to DOGE, we have some Democrats who have signed on to the bipartisan committee to try to rein in government spending. But then some, like the House Minority Leader, just don't seem to get it at all. Listen to what Hakeem Jeffries said.
Yeah, it's unclear to me what exactly the objective is related to this so-called DOGE initiative. From our perspective, we want a federal government that is effective and efficient and equitable.
Well, how you doing on that score? Efficient, equitable, and effective.
Had we used the terms blue ribbon commission, everybody would have understood very clearly. But DOGE is going to make recommendations to the president and to Congress for them to take action. It is. And ultimately, it's going to be up for President Trump and Congress to do their job, and both have said they're willing to do it and ready.
But I also think if we're looking at cutting spending, we're going to have to look at programs like Social Security and Medicare. We can't just look at the workforce. I think that civil servants are an unfair target. We need to look at the budget as a whole to make the government more efficient.
Trust Megan to look at that third railing. I'm going to grab onto that thing really tight. Good to talk to you, folks.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend. Sandra?
All right, we are